It's certainly very prevalent in other parts of the country. And it's growing here thanks to the hard work of people like my guest, who is Uptal Marshall. Welcome to our show.
Thank you very much, Roby.
And I might add that you are a good runner as well as a good race walker.
Thanks very much.
And we put together a little film clip. We had a little bit of fun doing this. And we'll talk about that afterwards. We had a producer that almost risked his life for this one. So we talked about that as we do it. So we put together a little clip on walking. And first of all, I want you to let's tell everybody what they're going to see when we go to it.
Okay, Roby. Well, the other day we went to out on the street, and what I attempted to do was to show some warm-up exercises that would facilitate walking comfortably for fitness people. And as we progressed along through the workout, we actually got to where I was performing race walking at top clip. So what we're going to see is some of the warm-up exercises that one can use to prepare themselves for race walking, and then to give those people who are interested in power walking or maybe progressing on to race walking some pointers about what is involved with getting into proper technique and form.
Right. And what not to do.
Right, well, hopefully what not
So if we're ready now, let's roll that, and then we can comment on it as it goes, eh? This is where we're getting ready for. This is the warm-ups, eh?
Yeah. What I'm showing here, of course, is neck rolls, but the point behind this, Roby, is that flexibility is really, really important in all exercise, but in race walking it's more so because you're trying to put the body into as a flexible position as possible, but at the same time getting forward motion. So if you're flexible, you're able to use the techniques of the body to get forward quickly.
Very important, the warm-up exercise.
Sure.
As it is in running.
As it is in running, but
these are just a little different as opposed to running.
I would say that what's happening is that you need flexibility in running as well, but you really realize how viable and important it is when you're actually out there walking, and to get the stiffness out and to be really flexible. So I'm just showing here that
just basics.
Basics, especially through the hips. Now you wouldn't actually step out your front door and start doing this sort of thing, but if you actually did a little bit of jogging first, then you did this, the muscles would be warmed up. Here I'm showing just sort of some proper arm action, and that arm action is the big difference between running and walking, because in race walking and in power walking, the upper body and the use of the arms is all important. And what we're trying to do here is make sure all motion is going forward, front to back, and not a lot of side-to-side action here.
This is classified as a casual walk.
This is a casual walk, and a lot of people, beginning runners or people who are not interested in the jarring effects of running, would be doing this sort of thing on a day-to-day basis. And by getting your arms in motion and putting a little more effort into it, you're getting your aerobic level up higher. Now what I'm showing here is a striking of the heel and landing on the toe. We're trying to get as large a stride as possible, so the heel comes down, makes contact with the ground, and then we come off the toe.
And here we go. Now this is where we speed it up.
Yes, kids, don't do this in your rec room.
And don't have your producer laying on the hood of your car filming this the way we did.
I think you're beginning to notice.
A lot of fun.
Well, I think you'll see in this clip how important it is to be flexible, and that what's happening with the legs there and with the knees is that there's a very fluid motion, and you don't see a lot of side-to-side torque. And what we're doing is just using the energy of the body and pressing off from the ground and pushing back, and that hopefully that what you're doing is concentrating your energy and pushing forward, and that there's not a lot of twisting, and remaining flexible.
And there we have it. We had fun doing that.
We had fun doing it, and we're hopefully, if people do it themselves. Now, like you said, it's an odd sport in the Maritimes, but in other places in Canada, especially in Quebec, and in places in Europe, race walking is a very, very important sport. It's just that in certain areas it looks a little strange to some people, and they don't quite understand it, so they sort of, it's not very given much regard.
very popular in countries like Mexico, Eastern Europe.
Yeah, in the Olympics, there are two events which have been in a number of years very important events: the 20-kilometer walk and the 50K walk. And walkers from Mexico and Eastern Europe have been very, very strong. I must say that certain body types tend to create a little bit of a different technique, and in different countries there are a little bit of stylistic changes that are a bit different. In Canada and Quebec, there are a very, very strong group of walkers, and in the United States, if you go to Central Park, or especially in larger cities in the United States, you'll find that race walking is much more popular. There's not very less stigma attached to it, and for people looking for overall fitness, it's the key to working on upper body strength and also getting lower body strength too.
So you would recommend it for a runner to strengthen their upper body, to go once in a while and do this race walking?
I think that I'm sure that for a lot of runners who have had injury problems and have suffered from impact abuse, where their knees are hurting, that they would find that race walking is a respite from that particular activity, because there's no jarring, there's no pounding, and as you progress in your technique, you find it helpful. As for upper body strength, you find that with race walking that you can't really get the technique and the form correctly unless you're using a high degree of upper body strength. Now, I would say that in the case of runners, most runners tend to try and relax the shoulders and the arms, but there comes times in races when they're trying to sprint or when they're doing hills where they find themselves going into that motion of using their arms, and race walking is one way of developing that particular motion. One of the things I was going to say about that particular technique is that for those who are interested in race walking, that it's something that really can't be taken for granted. That, you know, it's very natural for us to walk, because we go here and there walking, and it feels natural to jog, but often when we run, we don't really analyze our technique or what's happening with our body. But it's one of those little things that when you start to get involved with race walking, it's very important to start analyzing some of the little things that you're doing with your technique.
So, we learned a lot. And our time is just about up, unfortunately. We get going on something like this.
Wow.
But thanks very much for coming in. Thanks for doing the film with us. We had a lot of fun doing that, and it certainly was instructional.
Thank you very much, Roby.
Okay. Now we're going to